The deception, the massive alien fleet hung in the darkness of space like silver needles against black silk. Commander Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the small human shuttle on his display screen. His forearms crossed behind his back, and his lips curled into what his species considered a smile. "One shuttle," he said to his second officer, Rex. "The humans send one shuttle to negotiate." "How pathetic." Rex nodded, his green scales reflecting the blue light from the monitors. "Our scanners show minimal weapons, Commander. Standard diplomatic vessel. 20 meters long, crew of 5. The Krell Empire had conquered 43 star systems. Each victory came easier than the last. Now, they had come for Earth's outer colonies. The humans had requested a meeting in neutral space, and Vex had agreed. Why not? It would be entertaining to watch them beg. "Sir, the human shuttle requests permission to approach," the communications officer announced. "Let them come," Vex commanded. "Ready all weapons. When negotiations fail, we destroy them as an example." The shuttle moved slowly toward the alien armada. Inside, Captain John Miller sat calmly at the controls. His crew of 4 remained silent, each one knowing their role perfectly. They wore simple gray uniforms. Nothing fancy, nothing threatening. "Captain, they're scanning us again," said Tom, the navigation officer. "Let them," John replied. "They see what we want them to see." The aliens had made one crucial mistake. They assumed human technology followed the same rules as theirs. They assumed what they could scan was all that existed. They had never encountered humanity's greatest invention, dimensional folding technology. The shuttle stopped exactly 5,000 kilometers from the alien flagship. Close enough to talk, far enough to seem respectful, or so the aliens thought. "Human vessel," Vex's voice boomed through the communication system. "You stand before the might of the Krell Empire. Surrender your colonies and we might spare your home world." John activated the video feed. His face appeared calm, almost bored. "Commander Vex, I'm afraid you've misunderstood the situation." Vex laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "One shuttle against 500 warships? What situation could I possibly misunderstand?" "You think this is a shuttle?" John said simply. "Our scanners confirm it. 20 meters, minimal weapons, 5 life signs." "Your scanners see 3-dimensional space," John explained patiently. "That's your limitation, not ours." Rex leaned toward his commander. "What does the human mean?" Before Vex could answer, John continued. 5 years ago, humanity discovered how to fold space. We can hide things in dimensions your scanners can't detect. This isn't a shuttle, Commander. It's a key? Impossible!" Vex roared. John smiled for the first time. "Computer, initiate Protocol 7, unfold the Titan." The space around the small shuttle began to ripple like water. The aliens' scanners went crazy, alarms screaming across every ship in the fleet. What had been empty space suddenly wasn't empty anymore. The shuttle wasn't growing. It was unfolding, like a piece of paper that had been crumpled into a ball, now spreading out to reveal its true size. Deck after deck materialized from nowhere. Weapon systems appeared from dimensional pockets. Armor plating emerged from folded space. Where once floated a 20-meter shuttle, now loomed a 2-kilometer battleship. The Titan was humanity's masterpiece. Every inch of its hull bristled with weapons that had been hidden in folded dimensions. Its engines, compressed into pocket spaces, now roared to life with the power of miniature suns. Shield generators that had existed in parallel dimensions snapped into place, surrounding the ship in layers of protective energy. "All weapons online," Tom reported calmly. "Shield at maximum. Enemy fleet is in optimal firing range." Vex stood frozen on his bridge, his 4 arms hanging limp at his sides. His entire fleet, 500 ships that had conquered dozens of worlds, suddenly looked very small. You hit a battleship inside a shuttle?" Rex whispered. John's face remained on the screen, still calm, still patient. "Not inside, Commander. Around, between, through. Your 3-dimensional thinking is your weakness. Now shall we discuss those negotiations again? Or would you prefer we demonstrate what else we've been hiding?" The revelation, the bridge of the Krell flagship, fell into complete silence. Every officer stared at their screens, unable to process what they had witnessed. The human battleship Titan hung in space like a metal mountain, its weapon ports glowing with barely contained energy. Commander Vex finally found his voice. "All ships, battle formation! Target the human vessel!" But even as he gave the order, he felt the cold grip of fear. His species had never experienced true terror in battle before. They had always been the predators. Now, looking at the impossible ship before him, Vex understood what prey felt like. "Commander," Rex's voice shook, "our computers can't lock onto it properly. The ship keeps shifting between dimensions. One moment it's there, the next our targeting systems show empty space." On the Titan's bridge, Captain John Miller watched the alien fleet scramble into attack formation. His crew worked with practiced efficiency, their fingers dancing across control panels that materialized from folded space as needed. "Captain, they're charging weapons," Lisa, the weapons officer, reported. "Should we raise additional shields?" "No need," John replied. "Let them fire first. The Council needs to see we acted in self-defense." The space between the two forces crackled with tension. 500 Krell ships spread out in a perfect attack formation that had destroyed countless enemies. Their weapons powered up, creating a light show of green and purple energy beams. "Fire!" Vex commanded. 500 ships unleashed their fury at once. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, and particle weapons streaked through space toward the Titan. The display was magnificent and terrifying. Enough firepower to crack a moon in half. The weapons hit. Nothing. The Titan had shifted slightly out of phase with normal space. The entire ship existed just half a dimension away from where the weapons passed through. To the aliens, it looked like their weapons went straight through the human ship without touching it. "Impossible!" Vex slammed his fist on his command chair. "Nothing can phase shift an entire battleship." John opened a communication channel to all Krell ships. "Commander Vex, that was your one free shot. We came here to negotiate peacefully. Earth's colonies are under our protection. Leave now and no one has to die. Humans!" Vex spat the word like a curse. "You think one ship, no matter how advanced, can stop the entire Krell Empire? We have thousands more vessels, millions of warriors, and we have more than one Titan," John said quietly. The words hung in space like a physical presence. Rex turned to his commander, his scales now pale with fear. "More than one?" John nodded on the screen. "Every human ship you've ever scanned, every cargo freighter, every mining vessel, every passenger liner. How do you know what they really are? How do you know we haven't been hiding our true fleet in folded space for years?" It was a bluff, partially. Humanity had only 3 Titans completed, with 2 more under construction. But the aliens didn't need to know that. Fear was a weapon as powerful as any energy beam. "You're lying," Vex said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Am I?" John asked. "Would you like to test that theory? Or would you prefer to report back to your empire that humans possess technology beyond your understanding? That attacking us would be unwise?" The Titan's weapons began to glow brighter. Not firing, just showing their ready state. Each weapon port was larger than some of the smaller Krell ships. The message was clear. "We haven't even begun to fight." "Captain," Mark, the science officer, spoke up. "The Krell fleet is receiving multiple communications from their homeworld." John smiled. He knew what those messages were. Earth's diplomatic corps had sent video footage of the Titans unfolding to every major power in the galaxy. By now, dozens of species were reconsidering their stance toward humanity. "Commander Vex," John continued, "humanity doesn't want war. We want trade, friendship, mutual growth. But we will defend ourselves. Your choice. Be remembered as the commander who started an unwinnable war, or the one wise enough to recognize a new power in the galaxy." Vex stood slowly, his forearms trembling with rage and fear. His fleet had never retreated. The Krell Empire had never backed down. But he had never faced an enemy that could hide battleships in empty space either. "Sir," Rex whispered, "what are your orders?" Vex looked at the human battleship, then at his fleet, then back at the impossible vessel that had appeared from nowhere. How many more were hidden in Earth's space? How many human ships throughout the galaxy were actually weapons waiting to unfold? The standoff 10 minutes passed in tense silence. Neither fleet moved. The Titan hung in space like a sleeping giant, its weapons powered but not aimed. The Krell ships maintained their formation, but Vex noticed small signs of fear, ships drifting slightly out of position. Weapon signatures fluctuating as nervous gunners gripped their controls. "Commander," the communications officer spoke carefully. "The Empire sends urgent orders. They want detailed scans of the human technology. Tell the Empire our scanners can't read it properly, Vex growled. Tell them the humans have surpassed us. The words hurt to say. The Krell had built their entire identity on being the supreme military force in their sector of the galaxy. Now one human ship had shattered that illusion. On the Titan, Captain John Miller turned to his crew. Status report. All systems normal, Tom replied. The dimensional anchors are holding steady. We can maintain this form for another 72 hours before needing to refold. Captain? Lisa pointed to her screen. I'm detecting movement in the Krell fleet. 3 ships are backing away slowly, John nodded. Fear was spreading. Good. The less actual fighting, the better. Humanity had learned long ago that the threat of violence was often more effective than violence itself. Open a private channel to Commander Vex, John ordered. Vex's face appeared on a small screen, away from his crew's view. The alien commander looked older somehow. His confidence cracked like a broken shield. Commander, John spoke quietly, I'm going to give you information your Empire doesn't have. Share it or don't, your choice. What information? Vex asked, suspiciously. The dimensional folding technology requires enormous energy. We can't maintain this form forever. Your scanners might not detect it, but we're burning through fuel reserves quickly. Vex's eyes narrowed. Why tell me this? Because I want you to understand something. Yes, we have limitations. But ask yourself, how long can we maintain this form? Hours, days, weeks? And how many more ships like this does Earth have? 2? 10? 100? You don't know, and that uncertainty will eat at your empire forever. It was psychological warfare at its finest. Give the enemy just enough truth to make them doubt everything. You're trying to manipulate me, Vex said. I'm trying to save lives, John corrected. Your empire built its reputation on overwhelming weak opponents. But what happens when you face an equal or a superior? Does your empire collapse? Do your conquered systems rebel? How many enemies have you made who are just waiting for you to show weakness? Vex's scales darkened, a sign of deep thought in his species. John had hit a nerve. The Krell Empire was vast, but unstable, held together by fear rather than loyalty. Meanwhile, on Earth, the Global Defense Council watched the confrontation through quantum-linked sensors. General Adams stood in the command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the standoff. Sir, an aide approached. The other 2 Titans are requesting permission to reveal themselves. Negative, Adams replied. John's got this under control. We keep our cards hidden until absolutely necessary. Back in space, a new development occurred. A small Krell destroyer suddenly broke formation, accelerating toward the Titan. Captain! Lisa shouted. Krell vessel approaching fast! They're on a collision course. John's expression hardened. It's a probe. They want to test if we're really solid or just a projection. All hands prepare for the destroyer never reached them. The Titan's point defense system, hidden until now, activated automatically. Hundreds of tiny ports opened across the hull, releasing swarms of micro-missiles no bigger than a human fist. Each missile phased through space, appearing and disappearing, making them impossible to track or stop. The destroyer was surrounded, then consumed in a cloud of precise explosions. Not destroyed, but completely disabled. Every weapon, engine, and sensor array was surgically removed, leaving the crew alive but helpless. Krell fleet, John announced to all ships. That was restraint. We could have destroyed that vessel. We chose not to. But test us again, and we might not be so merciful. Commander Vex watched his destroyer drift powerless through space. The precision required to disable a ship without killing the crew was beyond anything the Krell could achieve. It spoke of technology and control that made their own weapons look like clubs against a surgeon's scalpel. Sir, Rex said quietly, perhaps we should consider their offer of negotiation. Vex turned to his second-in-command, ready to berate him for suggesting retreat. But looking at his bridge crew, he saw the same thought in all their eyes. They had encountered something beyond their ability to fight. The decision. The disabled Krell destroyer drifted between the 2 forces like a metal testament to humanity's precision. Inside, the crew sat in darkness, their ship powerless but life support mysteriously intact. It was a message. We could have killed you, but we chose mercy. Commander Vex studied the tactical display, his military mind calculating possibilities. Even if they destroyed the Titan, at what cost? Half his fleet? More? And if the humans truly had more such ships? Commander, a junior officer interrupted his thoughts. We're receiving a transmission from the human vessel. They're sending medical supplies. On the main screen, a small drone emerged from the Titan, phase-shifting through space toward the disabled destroyer. It carried emergency power cells and medical equipment, clearly marked with the universal symbol for humanitarian aid. They attack our ship, then send help? Rex asked, confused. No, Vex said slowly, understanding dawning on him. They're showing us they could be conquerors but choose to be healers. It's a message to our entire empire. Captain John Miller watched the drone deliver its supplies. This was the critical moment. Everything depended on how the Krell interpreted this gesture. Captain, Mark reported, I'm detecting quantum communications from the Krell fleet. They're having a very heated discussion with their homeworld. Put it on speaker if you can decrypt it, John ordered. The bridge filled with the harsh sounds of the Krell language, automatically translated by the ship's AI, unprecedented technology. Request immediate reinforcements. No, Supreme Admiral, you don't understand. They bent space itself. One ship, yes, but I am not exaggerating. John muted the playback. They're scared. Good. Fear makes people think twice. Or it makes them desperate, Lisa warned. She was right, of course. John had studied enough human history to know that cornered enemies were the most dangerous. But he also knew that showing strength while offering peace was humanity's best chance of avoiding a costly war. Commander Vex, John opened another channel. I have a proposition. You and 2 of your officers are invited aboard the Titan. You can see our technology firsthand, verify we're not bluffing, and we can discuss terms that benefit both our species. The bridge of the Krell flagship erupted in arguments. Some officers called it a trap. Others insisted it was their only chance to gather intelligence. Vex raised his hand for silence. If I come aboard, Vex said carefully, what guarantee do I have of safe return? You have my word as a captain, John replied. And consider this, if we wanted to destroy you, would we need tricks? We're offering you something more valuable than safety. We're offering understanding. Vex looked at his crew, then at the impossible human ship on his screen. Every instinct screamed danger, but his curiosity was stronger. How did the technology work? Could the Krell acquire it? Could they defend against it? I accept, Vex announced, surprising everyone, including himself. I will bring 2 officers. Excellent. Our docking bay will adjust to accommodate your shuttle. 1 hour, Commander. The connection ended. Rex immediately protested. Commander, this is madness. You can't board an enemy vessel. Enemy? Vex turned to face his second-in-command. Are they our enemy, Rex? They could have destroyed us by now. Instead, they offer negotiation, send medical supplies, invite us as guests. Perhaps the real madness is not accepting. An hour later, a small Krell shuttle approached the Titan. As it neared, part of the battleship's hull seemed to ripple and flow, creating a docking port perfectly sized for the alien vessel. Even this small demonstration of adaptive technology made Vex's scales tingle with unease. The shuttle docked smoothly. Vex and 2 officers stepped into the Titan's airlock, which had somehow adjusted its atmosphere to be comfortable for both species. The first thing Vex noticed was how quiet everything was. Krell ships hummed with energy, vibrated with power. The Titan was silent as death. Captain John Miller waited on the other side, flanked by 2 crew members. He was smaller than Vex had expected, reaching barely to the alien's chest. Yet he stood with the confidence of someone who knew exactly how much power surrounded him. Commander Vex. John extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting. Welcome aboard the Titan. Or should I say, welcome to humanity's new approach to diplomacy? Vex looked at the offered hand, then slowly extended one of his 4 arms to shake it. The grip was firm but not aggressive. Captain Miller, Vex replied, show me how you've changed the rules of war. The tour. The corridors of the Titan were unlike anything Vex had ever seen. The walls seemed to breathe, shifting between solid metal and translucent energy. Sometimes he could see through them into other parts of the ship. Sometimes they were mirrors, Sometimes they displayed star charts that hurt to look at directly. The walls are partially phased, John explained as they walked. They exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. It's how we fit so much into what appears to be empty space. Rex, who had insisted on accompanying his commander, reached out to touch a wall. His hand passed through it, then hit solid metal, then passed through again. This is impossible. The power requirements alone would be impossible with conventional technology, John agreed. But we don't use conventional power sources. Let me show you. They entered what John called the engineering bay. Vex stopped in his tracks, his forearms spreading in shock. The room was both tiny and infinite. He could see the far wall just meters away, but when he looked at it from a different angle, it stretched for kilometers. In the center floated a sphere of pure darkness, surrounded by rings of light that rotated in directions that shouldn't exist. A captured micro-black hole, John said casually. We fold space-time around it, creating a pocket dimension. The black hole exists here and not here simultaneously. It provides infinite energy as long as we keep it stable. You're insane, the third Krell officer whispered. If that escapes, it can't, Lisa, who had joined them, explained. It's not really here. It's one dimension to the left of here. We just tap its energy through quantum tunneling. Vex felt his understanding of physics crumbling. How long have humans had this technology? The theory? About 50 years. The practical application? 5 years of testing, 3 years of implementation. John led them to another section. We developed it out of necessity. We knew that eventually someone like the Krell would come. We couldn't match you ship for ship, so we had to change the game entirely. They entered the weapons bay. Row after row of weapons extended in impossible directions. Some were clearly visible, others flickered in and out of existence. Each weapon exists in its own pocket dimension until needed, John explained. We can deploy them instantly anywhere around the ship. Your sensors can't track them because they're not really here until they fire. This is why our weapons pass through you, Vex said, understanding dawning. Partially. We can also rotate our entire ship through dimensions. Imagine a piece of paper. From the side, it's nearly invisible. We do the same thing, but with 3-dimensional objects through 4-dimensional space. Rex was recording everything with a small device, though the readings made no sense. The tactical advantages. You could appear inside our formations, phase through planets, attack from directions that don't exist. We could, John agreed, but we won't. Humanity learned something important in our own wars. Total victory often leads to total rebellion. We don't want to conquer anyone. We want trade partners, allies, friends. They moved to the observation deck. Here, the walls were transparent, showing space in all its glory. But it was space as Vex had never seen it. He could see layers of reality overlapping, dimensions bleeding into each other. The Krell fleet looked flat and simple by comparison, like drawings on paper compared to living beings. This is how you see the universe? Vex asked quietly. This is how the universe actually is, John corrected. Most species only see 3 dimensions. It's like living your whole life in a cave and thinking shadows on the wall are reality. We found the exit. Why show us this? Vex turned to face the human captain. Why reveal your advantages? John was quiet for a moment, looking out at the stars. Because fear fades, Commander. If we just defeated you, you'd go back, build new weapons, and try again. But if we show you a different path, maybe you'll take it. You want to share this technology? Eventually. When you're ready. When your empire stops conquering and starts cooperating. The universe is vast enough for all of us, especially when you realize there are infinite dimensions to expand into. Vex felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Hope. Not for conquest, but for something greater. The other species in the galaxy? If they knew about this, they will, John said. We're already in talks with the Altarians and the Zephyr Coalition. Imagine, Commander, instead of fighting over planets, we could each have our own dimensional layer. Instead of war fleets, we could have exploration vessels seeking new realities. The negotiation. The conference room materialized around them. One moment they were walking down a corridor, the next they were seated at a table that seemed to exist in a bubble of starlight. Vex noticed his chair had automatically adjusted to his anatomy, supporting all 4 of his arms comfortably. Dimensional architecture, John explained, seeing the aliens' confusion. The ship creates rooms as needed, then folds them away when done. We're actually occupying the same space as the weapons bay, just 3 degrees out of phase. Rex's head was spinning from trying to understand the physics. The third officer, Cray, had stopped attempting to make sense of it all and simply accepted the impossibility. "Let's discuss terms," John said, as other humans entered the room. They wore different uniforms. Diplomats, Vex realized, not soldiers. A woman named Director Smith took the lead. "Commander Vex, the Krell Empire currently controls 43 star systems. 17 of those systems were taken by force from other species. We want those returned. Impossible!" Vex stood abruptly. "The Empire never retreats, never surrenders territory." "The Empire never faced dimensional technology before," Smith replied calmly. "Consider the alternative. We reveal this technology to those 17 species. How long before they develop their own versions? How long before the Krell face 17 different enemies who can phase through your defenses?" Vex slowly sat back down. The human was right. Once this technology spread, conventional warfare would become obsolete. The Krell's entire military advantage would evaporate. "What do you offer in return?" Vex asked. "Partnership," John interjected. "The Krell are brilliant engineers and warriors. Imagine what you could build with dimensional technology. Imagine exploration ships that could visit parallel universes, find versions of planets where life evolved differently." Smith pulled up a holographic display. It showed the galaxy, but layered like a stack of transparent sheets. "This is our vision. Each species expands into their own dimensional layer. No more fighting over resources because resources become infinite. The Krell could have an empire 1,000 times larger than your current one, without taking a single planet from anyone else." "And you would share this freely?" Cray asked suspiciously. "Not freely," Smith corrected. "There are conditions. First, immediate cessation of all conquests. Second, gradual return of conquered systems to their original inhabitants. Third, participation in a galactic council where all species have equal voice." "The Empire will never agree to equality with lesser species," Rex protested. "Lesser?" John stood and walked to the window, showing space in multiple dimensions. "Commander, look at your fleet through our sensors. See how simple, how limited 3-dimensional thinking makes you. Every species you've conquered might have developed something like this if you hadn't suppressed them. How many Einsteins did you kill? How many innovations did you prevent?" The truth stung. Vex had never considered that conquest might have cost the Krell more than it gained them. "I need to consult with my government," Vex said finally. "Of course." Smith handed him a small device. "This is a quantum communicator. It works across dimensions, instantaneous communication regardless of distance. Consider it a gift and a demonstration. Your scientists will spend years trying to understand it." Vex took the device carefully. Even this simple communicator was beyond Krell technology. "We'll give you 72 hours to discuss with your empire," John said. "During that time, the Titan will remain here, weapons powered down as a sign of good faith. But Commander, understand something clearly. This is not just about the Krell and humanity. We've already sent information about this encounter to every major civilization in the galaxy. Everyone is watching. Your decision here will define how the galaxy sees the Krell for generations." "You're forcing our hand," Vex accused. "We're offering you a choice," John corrected. "Continue down the path of conquest and face a galaxy that will soon have technology you can't fight. Or join us in something greater. Imagine being remembered not as conquerors, but as pioneers of interdimensional civilization." Vex stood to leave, his 2 officers following. As they walked back to their shuttle, the Titan's corridors shifted around them, creating the most direct path. Even this casual display of control over space itself reinforced how outmatched the Krell were. At the airlock, John shook Vex's hand again. "Commander, one last thing. That disabled destroyer? We've repaired it. Full functionality restored. Tell your crew we meant what we said about not wanting to kill anyone." Vex looked at the human captain with new respect. "You could conquer us all, couldn't you?" "If you wanted?" "Yes," John said simply. "But conquest is easy. Building something better is hard. We choose the harder path." The new era 72 hours later, the galaxy held its breath. Every major civilization watched through long-range sensors as the Krell fleet and the human Titan faced each other in the void. The quantum communicator had done its job. Vex had spent 3 days in heated debate with the Krell Empire's leadership. On the Titan's bridge, Captain John Miller waited patiently. His crew was calm but ready. If this went wrong, they might have to fight 500 ships. Even with their technology, it would be costly. "Captain," Lisa reported, "the Krell fleet is—" "Sir, they're forming a new pattern. On the screen, the 500 warships were rearranging. Not into an attack formation, but into something else entirely. They formed a perfect sphere around the Titan, weapons powered down, running lights shifting from combat red to peaceful blue. Incoming transmission," Tom announced. Commander Vex appeared on the main screen, but he looked different. His military armor had been replaced with decorated robes. Beside him stood not just military officers, but what appeared to be scientists, diplomats, and engineers. "Captain Miller," Vex began formally, "I speak for the Krell Empire. We have debated, we have argued. Some called for war, others for peace. But one question kept returning: what future do we choose?" John remained silent, letting the alien continue. "For 1,000 years, the Krell have been conquerors. We believed strength meant taking from others. But you've shown us strength can mean building with others." Vex paused. "The Empire accepts your terms. We will return the conquered systems. We will join this galactic council. We ask only one thing in return." "Name it," John said. "Teach us. Not just the technology, but the thinking behind it. Help us see the universe as you do, in all its dimensional glory." John smiled, the tension finally breaking. "Commander, that was always the plan. Humanity learned long ago that the best way to defeat an enemy is to turn them into a friend." The response to this moment rippled across the galaxy at the speed of light. The Altarians announced they would join the Dimensional Alliance. The Zephyr Coalition offered their biological expertise to help species adapt to multidimensional perception. Even the isolationist Void Touched sent a simple message: "We are interested." Over the following weeks, the transformation began. Krell ships arrived at their conquered worlds not with demands, but with apologies and reparations. It wasn't easy. Some species wanted revenge for years of oppression. But the promise of dimensional technology, of infinite space to grow, gradually won them over. The first interdimensional colony ship was a joint project: human dimensional technology, Krell engineering, Altarian navigation systems, and Zephyr biological adaptation chambers. It launched 6 months after the standoff. Destination: not another star, but another dimension entirely. A universe where physics worked slightly differently, where new possibilities awaited. Captain John Miller stood on Earth's first orbital dimensional shipyard, watching as more Titans were revealed. Not built, but unfolded from spaces that hadn't existed before. Each one was a promise and a warning. We choose peace, but we're ready for war. Director Smith joined him at the observation window. "Think it will last? This peace? Nothing lasts forever," John replied. "But maybe it doesn't have to. Maybe we just need it to last long enough for everyone to realize how much better this is than fighting." Below them, Earth spun in its ancient orbit, but now it was surrounded by ghostly images of itself. Alternate Earths in parallel dimensions, each one being prepared for colonization. Humanity's population would no longer be confined to one world or even one universe. Commander Vex, now Ambassador Vex, had established an embassy on Earth's dimensional station. His people were quick learners, already proposing improvements to the technology. The Krell's warrior spirit hadn't died. It had been redirected toward exploring hostile dimensions, places where humans couldn't survive but Krell physiology thrived. "Captain Miller," a young ensign approached. "You're needed in Conference Room Alpha. The Sentient Machine Collective has arrived. They want to discuss converting their consciousness to multidimensional existence." John nodded and turned to leave, then paused. "You know what the best part is?" he said to Smith. "We spent so long preparing for war, building weapons, creating the Titans. But our greatest victory came from showing mercy to a disabled destroyer. Sometimes the smallest gestures change everything." As he walked away, the stars continued their eternal dance, but now they danced in infinite layers of reality. The age of conquest was ending. The age of infinite exploration had begun, and somewhere in the void, a small shuttle that was really a battleship had changed the course of galactic history, not through violence, but through the simple act of unfolding to reveal humanity's true potential.